Do you need 1450 degrees to cook a steak? Well, today we're going to answer that question, along with other pressing questions like what happens to a steak when it falls on the ground? Becomes ground beef. I love steak. It is legitimately my favorite food. I love cooking steak. I love grilling steak. I love sautéing steak. I love smoking steaks. I just love everything involved with steak. So, when Luma reached out to me and said they have a new indoor turbo broiler oven thing that goes up to 1450 degrees like they cook at the professional steakhouses, I said, I'm in, let me try it. So right up front, they sent me this. I didn't have to pay for it. I don't have to send it back. However, they get no input on the video. They don't get to review it before it goes up. So my opinions are my own. Let's not even dilly-dally. Let's open this up and see what we're dealing with. And there you have it. This is the Luma Electric Steak Grill. At least that's what the manual says. Guess that makes sense. I don't know why I was expecting a door, but there's no door. First shock. We've got a pretty nice cast iron, heavy duty grilling surface. We got that. We have this thing. I'm not sure what it's for. We got this guy with a cool little cup. Guessing that's like a drip tray. I think that's what they're trying to say with that icon, drip. And that's it. All right, important notes on operation. Fill the grease collection tray. Put some water into the grease collection tray before operation. Otherwise, the overheat protection will trigger and the appliance will reset. That's interesting. If this happens, it'll stop. Wait 5 to 6 minutes before restarting. We have some cooking zones. We have a searing zone, a grilling zone, and a keeping warm zone. So searing, grilling, keep warm. For low smoke ignition, keep your food in the grilling zone. Okay. Guess because there's like a fan and a filter maybe? I'll be right back. Let me take a few minutes to go over this. Anything that goes 1450 degrees, I kind of want to know how it works. I generally don't read instruction manuals that often, but I think I'm going to read this one. I spent a little bit of time perusing the manual. Found out a couple of things. The first thing I found out is this is a handle. There's 2 little slots on the grease tray and on the cooking grate. This piece here kind of goes in, you put pressure, and then it works as a handle. You can also use this little kind of hook thing to kind of hook it out and pull things out to get a little bit better access. The reason we need this is when you cook the food, you want it as close to the burner as possible. There is no room for flipping. So flipping is involved in pulling the grate out, and then you have to put it onto what they said is a fireproof surface. So make sure before you start this thing up, you have planned ahead where the heck you're going to put your 1400 degree grill grate. For me, I decided to go with a super thick cutting board with a baking rack over it for insulation. I figure this will give some insulation. This will be kind of heat proof, a lot of air through it so it's not touching the wood directly. Don't want to light the wood on fire. Definitely don't want to put it on your nice solid surface countertop because that could be a huge issue. I could see that cracking. A couple other pre-use tips. First thing it says is, do not try to stick this under a counter. You want at least 6 inches of clearance to the left and right and 20 inches of clearance on the top of this unit. Can't tuck it up underneath your countertop like I have my air fryer. This is a stick on the counter, use, put away kind of scenario. I don't see this living out in the kitchen somewhere. For our first use, according to the manual, we need to give everything a quick clean. Treat cast iron like cast iron, don't use any soap. Just kind of like a mild wash and rinse. That includes wiping out the inside. Then we're gonna run it for 4 or 5 minutes with no food in it. Then we're gonna wash everything again. And then we're gonna also run it with no food for a few minutes. After that, it should be ready for its first maiden voyage. Before we do that, what are we gonna cook in this thing? I have something special. Quick hat change to my Indiana Jones hat. This is an official Indiana Jones style hat. It's the closest thing I have to a cowboy hat because we have a giant cowboy ribeye. This is like a yabba dabba do steak. This is 2.6 pounds for a single steak. Look at this thing. It's a monster. We're gonna go ahead and prep this. To prep it, very, very simple. We are keeping this simple. We are gonna go heavy with some sea salt and crushed black pepper. Do it up on both sides.
And then hit it up with some go, which is granulated onion and granulated garlic in a 50-50 mix. Season this boy well.
And that's it. We're gonna keep it super simple. They say to let your steak rest for an hour to come to room temperature. That's kind of a steak myth. We're just gonna go ahead and set this aside for a little while we do the cleaning process. That should be plenty of time to let this salt kind of penetrate a little bit. Now, if you really want to level up your steaks and you have the time, season them like this, just like this, stick it in the fridge overnight, and it will deeply penetrate into the steak, and you'll get a much better steak. I didn't have time to do that last night, so we're gonna go ahead and set this aside, and we'll clean this machine. Just a heads up, when I unboxed this thing, I found this little screw, and I didn't know what it was for. When I was cleaning, I just realized there's one on the left side, and there was missing one on the right side that's holding the rack holder in. Just be aware, look and make sure that all the screws are on the inside and you don't have one that was kind of floating around in the box like mine. And if you do, that's where it goes.
No need to bore you with the wash and prep process. Just know it got done.
Our salt has started to penetrate into the steak. I'm gonna throw a little bit of extra avocado oil on this steak, and then we'll get cooking. Only reason I'm doing that is to hopefully be able to prevent sticking. Now, I measured my steak. My steak is about 2.5 inches tall. Quick eyeball measurement, looks like we're gonna go down on the 3rd level because of how thick this steak is. According to the instructions, we need to preheat the grill for at least 3 minutes before putting the food with the grate in it. So let's do that.
All right, let's fill the pan with some water, let it sit for a minute, and we'll flip this guy on. Big switch at the back, hit the power button, put it to 1450, and I guess we'll pick like 8 minutes. I don't know how long this is gonna take, so let's give that a try.
Moment of truth. Let's see this steak. They say like 40 seconds to a minute per side. This thing's really thick. We're gonna cook to a crust. Once it has an awesome crust, I'm gonna pull it off. This thing's so thick, I just can't eat straight raw meat. I wanna give it some time to actually kind of cook. So I dropped it down from being right next to the infrared part. Plus that bone was looking super raw. Like, I'm not a tiger. It's still only 70 degrees. Okay, I want to take it up to at least 120. So we're gonna stick it back in. We'll just keep going. I'll let you know how long this took. That's a lot of smoke. Make sure you do this in a very well-ventilated area.
At this point, I decided to risk it and stick my wireless thermometer in there and hope for the best, just to make sure that I could actually get this thing cooked to 120 and get a good medium rare.
Nothing to it but to do it. Let's try this thing. All right, let's cut it off this massive bone, and then we'll give it a slice right down the middle. Let's see what we got. Ooh, that looks pretty good. That's not like rare. I think I actually nailed a medium rare on this. Did I mention I love steak? This is fantastic. Look at that crust. It didn't get too smoky in here. It never set off my smoke alarm. This is a top tier steak. If anyone served you this steak, you would be over the moon. That's terrible. All right, how did this thing do? Pretty darn fantastic. It got really hot, didn't smoke too much. It was pretty easy to use that handle in and out. I think this thing is great. I live in Florida, and there are times where the weather is just so bad that I can't get outside to any of my grills to make an awesome steak. Now I can make an awesome steak inside that rivals the best steakhouses. I'm not kidding. This is as good as any high-end steakhouse that you've been to. It's perfect. This is the perfect steak. If you are interested in one of these, I will throw a link down in the description. At the time of filming this video, these are about $249. Best way to get them is to go to the link in the description below. if you want to pick one up. If you love steak, I suggest you do. It's a pretty awesome gadget. Do all the likey, subscribe stuff. It really makes a big deal to this channel. Like it, leave comments, share it to your friends. And I would like to welcome our very first member to the channel, Joan Stubblefield. That's right, I have memberships now, and it's a great way to support this channel if you enjoy this content. Check it out. Information's in the description below. And I'll leave you with this. What do you call a steak that's been knighted by the queen? Sirloin. Dad may tell horrible jokes and have another awesome way to cook steak, but Dad doesn't do outros. So that's it. Bye.
And at this point, I'd like to thank our producer, Joan Stubblefield. If you'd like to get producer credits, go ahead and check out the description below.